Relax, Papa. Like jumping up and all that. You must have just took a poop. Just reading it, all right, bro? What's cracking? What's cracking? Let's go ahead and get this read in, man. Get this read in. Excuse me, I had everything, but it's not really cool out. It's not really cold. It's kind of windy out there. Acai, pineapple, peaches, ganeo, banana, chia, and flax, and purified water. Oh my goodness! It says put 1 tablespoon of chia seed. I put 2. You can probably see them in there with the flax. Oh, fiber. I was doing seated trunk twists on a little shit. I did a lot of them, y'all. I was cramping. Whew. And then I did some drills, you know. Even though I don't have my speed bag set up, I went through what's the normal thing. You know what I mean? Just counting, that's all. Just counting. Stutter, you know, like what you learn when you learn how to box. Speed, I love speedball drills. And you be getting winded. Especially when you start stepping. Almost like, you know, like crib walking, you know, heel toe, boom, hip, boom, boom. Whenever I'm doing the heel toe, right? Everybody's like, oh, wait, what was Ray doing? I'm like, yo, that's not African. That's our stuff, bro. But people don't know. They follow the mainstream idiots. Let's go and get some reading in. Ain't that right, Papa? My apologies for taking so long. I didn't mean to. I said let me make this shake. Oh, and hey, Rondo, thanks for the, what was it? I don't be really looking at the amount because I don't, you know, unless I'm worried about them crashing everything, taking anything out. I'll see that. Chip. Yeah, Rondo. Yeah, thanks for that 10, brother. Appreciate it. Appreciate you, fam. Okay, let's go ahead and get this reading in. Of course, we're going to start from George Jones, An Original History of Ancient America. Oh, this is going to be a little bit. And I got to run back out. So, I don't know. The other 2 books, we might come back on around about 5:36. I really want to do, I haven't hit none of the topics that I said I was going to. I had Mavis come on, and she's actually had to go to the city. So, I sent her a few more dollars, guys. Now, if you want to donate, it's in there. You might have to download the Zoom in order to do it. Her daughter's supposed to make her a Cashapp. Her daughter's in the Netherlands. She left here and went to the Netherlands to take care of her grandmother, her mother, Mavis' mother. So she's really doing her best to get settled, get her trust. She knows all about how to get your trust. And hers is out of, I think, Delaware, she said. Mine's is out of Virginia. And you see what they're doing right now is because many people have been tapping into their trust. Now, IRS is not legal at all. Most of these are not legal at all. It's a way for them to have normal people and also Jesuits and those others to continue doing the fallacies. But now you may know why the Pope rescinded that Papa Ball edict, whatever that nonsense is. It never meant nothing to me and my people. We didn't give a damn. Like I said, I got a story to tell y'all one day about some of my great-great-greats and great-great-great-great-greats. Yeah. No, and some of these Pelicans run around thinking they're indestructible. They're nothing. They're not even 10% of the men their ancestors were. They couldn't even deal with us. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into this reading because I'm tired of the BS. And any Spaniard or any Negro or any Asian, whatever, you come over here, you want to challenge me. As far as history goes, you're not us, brothers. You're not. And you never will be. Okay. George Jones, An Original History of Ancient America. Elderbron Classics. Okay. Let's go and get in here. I like the background music. I love this music. You hear the wind blowing, right? Anyway, let's go ahead. Section 3. The ruins of Palenque. Palenque is situated in the province of Zendeles, Mexican America. At the distance of about 8 miles from the modern village of Palenque, the now celebrated ruins are located. They are called the ruins of Palenque from the name of the nearest village and not from any history of their own. Like the field of Waterloo, it has given renown to a humble village adjacent. The name, therefore, of Palenque can be of no assistance in unfolding the history of these ruins. For the original name of the now desolate temples and palaces has been for centuries lost and buried with its fate. Like I said, the Spaniards came in and he just started renaming everything under the guise of this fake-ass Pope. So yeah, I don't recognize the term Mexico. I use it because I have brothers who are by that, and that's what we use. Even though they themselves, like, we know that's not the real name, and they also were aware that that's not the Gulf of Mexico. But in order for a fictional character to hold stuff over people they create into a straw man, that's right, yeah, they're all straw men down there. It's a little different, but yes, you are. And the reason being because you belong to them. Now they did the little mRNA thing, and that's why I put that post up. So that way you might know a little more, which you didn't know yesterday. Hold on, let me turn this off. Actually, it's warm. I'm gonna let it. It's gonna beep. So if we hear it, it's all right. I don't care. It's not gonna override me talking. It's gonna beep. You're gonna hear a beep in the background. It's all right. It's warming anything up. It's at about 175, so it's cool. Anyway, that's why I put that post up. Oh, it's more to it. If you want the witch call, I'll go ahead and I'll put the post up where I got the information. Hell, it's all over the place if you just Google the right stuff. For the Google-tific individuals. I really just have disdain for Google and all these apertures. Anyway, of the now desolate temples and palaces has been for centuries lost and buried with its fate. Mr. Stephens writes. Mr. Stephens writes, at half past 7, we left the village. For a short distance, the road was open, but very soon we entered a forest, which continued unbroken to the ruins, and probably many miles beyond. All the wreck of empires, nothing ever spoke so forcibly the world's mutations, as this immense forest shrouding what was once a great city. Once it had been a great highway, thronging with people who are stimulated by the same passions that give impulse to human action now. And they are all gone. See, they use the word humans and all that kind of stuff, so you know this individual was conditioned or with intention. Anyway, action now. And they are all gone, their habitation buried, and no traces of them left, which is a lie. They have to write you out. The most important thing, my melanated brothers and sisters, they have to write you out or coalesce through mating rituals based upon Ishtar, their fictional Easter, of orgies of rape, murder of the actual children, smashing them against the stones, and also with the assistance in hand of their kinfolk on the same land. Yeah, that's what I said. Baba Roshan, boy, I'm gonna come on to Louisiana and smack you upside your old head. Anyway, love you. Excuse me. Their habitation buried and no traces of them left. Fording this river Otula, very soon we saw masses of stones and then a round sculptured stone. We spurred up a sharp ascent of fragments, so steep that the mules could barely climb it, to a terrace so covered, like the whole road, with trees that it was impossible to make out the form. Continuing on this terrace, we stopped at the foot of the second, and through openings in the trees, we saw the front of a large building, richly ornamented with stuccoed figures on the pilasters, curious and elegant. Trees growing close against them, and their branches entering the doors. In style and effect, unique, extraordinary, and mournfully beautiful, we tied our mules to the trees and ascended a flight of stone steps forced apart and thrown down by trees, and entered the palace, ranged for a few mountains along the corridor, and into the courtyard. And after the first gaze of eager curiosity was over, went back to the entrance, and standing in the doorway, fired a few joy of 4 rounds each. being the last charge of our firearms, but for this way of giving vent to our satisfaction. Very destructive. We should have made the roof of the old palace ring with a hurrah. We had reached the end of our long and toilsome journey, and the first glance identified us for our toil. For the time, we were in a building erected by the Aboriginal inhabitants, standing before the Europeans knew of the existence of this continent. So that means there are no pale skins here. No Spaniards, no nothing, no Mongols or mongrels. Now, two distinct people don't mean that people my shade, wavy, long, curly, seriously nappy, didn't exist. Of course they did. But how do you distinguish when the Vatican utilized their own kindred, who were reminiscent like us, just like those of Ham, who were reminiscent of us? Not all tribes in Africa who are from Ham, for those who are religious, I just want to break this down for you, doesn't mean that some of them don't look like us. Because when you get to the Ethiopians or the Dogon are more in relationship to us, because I told you about the Hada, because the Dogon are not on their own land, and they know they're not. Who are the Hata people? That's why I said look into it, which they've done their best in the last 15 years to destroy that history. Anyway, Aboriginal inhabitants standing before the Europeans know of the existence of this continent. And we prepared to take up our abode under its roof, the sole tenants of the palace of unknown kings. The reader will excuse the preceding introduction. Its graphic style will find its own apology. And though not descriptive of the ruins, yet their approach to them seems to form a part of this historical romance of the wilderness. Of course, to them would be a romance. Now, if y'all get the chance, I want you to Google 1920 Fords, 1940 cars, and look at some of the places that they're found with trees at least 40 and 50, 60 feet high growing up through the center of them. So when we're talking about young saplings, yes, certain trees can get that height in about 50 or 60 years, yet are 70 or 80 if you go back to the 1920s, and you'll see plenty of them. So the ruins you see, speculated in conversation based upon his writings, are steeped in the reality of the 13th, 14th, and 15th century of attempting to conquer all these lands. They were once known and shown, and the indigenous or autochthonous people of those lands are still there. The further south you go, the more darker the continent gets. Arthur Kessler, the problem tribe, the problem people, the 13th tribe, the ones that create all the problems you see today. Excuse me. Anyway, just before the banquet, there was a small incident symbolic of the delicate nature of the Russian-Byzantine relations. And when the ladies of the Byzantine court entered, they fell on their faces before the imperial family. That means prostrate, whatever you want to call it. As protocol required, Olga remained standing, but it was noticed with satisfaction that she slightly, if predictably, inclined her head. She was put in her place by being seated as the Muslim state guests had been at a separate table. The Russian Chronicle has a different, richly embroidered version of this state visit. When the delicate subject of baptism was brought up, Olga told Constantine that if he desired to baptize her, he should perform this function himself. Otherwise, she was unwilling to accept that baptism. The emperor concurred and asked the patriarch to instruct her in the faith. And the patriarch introduced her in prayer and fasting and almsgiving, and in the maintenance of chastity. She bowed her head, and like a sponge absorbing water, she eagerly drank in his teachings. After her baptism, the emperor summoned Olga and made known to her that nothing but oath, made known to her that he wished her to become his wife. But she replied, "How can you marry me after yourself baptizing me and calling me your daughter? For among Christians that is unlawful, as you yourself must know." Then the emperor said, "Olga, you have outwitted me, because they're all perverse. When she got back to Kiev, Constantine sent a message to her saying, I as much, and she may have been melanated, I couldn't tell you. As I bestowed many gifts upon you, you promised me that when you return to Rus, you would send me many presents of slaves, wax and furs, and dispatch soldiery to aid me. Olga made answer to the envoys that if the emperor would spend as long a time with her in the Poshtina as she had remained on the Bosphorus, she would grant his request. With these words, she dismissed the envoys. Itchy nose. This Olga Helga must have been a formidable Scandinavian Amazon. She was, as already mentioned, the widow of Prince Igor, supposedly the son of Rurik, whom the Russian chronicle describes as a greedy, foolish, and sadistic ruler. In 941, he had attacked the Byzantines with a large fleet, and of the people they captured, some they butchered. Others they set up as targets and shot at. 9th century. Shot at. So you still want to believe that gunpowder is made by the... I told you we created it, and you think guns are... Man, y'all don't have a clue. They tell on themselves. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, some they seized upon, and after binding their hands behind their backs, they drove iron nails through their heads. Many sacred churches they gave to the flames. In the end, they were defeated by the Byzantine fleet, spouting Greek fire through tubes mounted in the prows of their ships. Upon seeing the flames, the Russians cast themselves into the seawater, but the survivors returned home, where they related that the Greeks had in their possession the lightning from heaven, and had set them on fire by pouring it forth, so that the Russes could not conquer them. This episode was followed by another treaty of friendship 4 years later. As a predominantly maritime nation, the Rus were even more impressed by the Greek fire than others, who had attacked Byzantium. And the lightning from heaven was a strong argument in favor of the Greek church. Yet they were still not ready for conversion. When Igor was killed in 945 by the Derivilians, a Slavonic people upon which he had imposed an exorbitant tribute, the widow Olga became regent of Kiev. She started her rule by taking fourfold revenge on the Derivilians. First, a Derivilian peace mission was buried alive, then a delegation of notables was locked in a bathhouse and burned alive. This was followed by another massacre, and lastly, the main town of the Derivilians was burnt down. Olga's bloodlust seemed truly insatiable until her baptism. From that day onward, though, the chronicle informs us she became the precursor of Christian Russia. Even as daybreak precedes the sun, and we know that those pictures are all of very dark melanated people. So what does that express? Even as daybreak precedes the sun, and as the dawn precedes the day, she shone like the moon by night, and she was radiant among the infidels, like a pearl in the mire. In due course, she was canonized as the first Russian saint of the Orthodox Church. And have any of y'all seen the Orthodox pictures in Russia? Oh, I got some. I might put a post up. Behold the pale horse, Mr. William Cooper himself. I don't say that nom word no more. There's reasons. Chapter 4, Secret Treaty of Verona. Precedent and positive proof of conspiracy. From Congressional Records, listen if you want to type it up. From Congressional Record, Senate, 1916, page 6781. And the American Diplomatic Code, Volume 2, the American Diplomatic Code, Volume 2, listen, all right, 1778, 1778 to 1884, Elliot, page 179, okay? Yes, 179, so make sure I memorize. My eyes are red? No, they're not. I'm tired, I was dozing. 1916, behold the pale horse, William Cooper. Congressional Record, Senate, Mr. Owen. I wish to put in the record the secret treaty of Verona of November 22nd, 1822, showing what this ancient conflict is between the rule of the few and the rule of the many. I wish to call the attention to the Senate to this treaty because it is the threat of this treaty which has the basis of the Monroe Doctrine. It throws a powerful white light upon the conflict between monarchical government and government by the people. And the Holy Alliance, under the influence of Metternich, the Premier of Austria, in 1822, issued this remarkable secret document. American Diplomatic Code, 1778-1884. The undersigned specially authorized to make some additions to the Treaty of the Holy Alliance. That's right, Holy Alliance. After having exchanged their respective credentials, have agreed as follows. Article 1. The high contracting powers, being convinced that the system of representative government is equally as incompatible with the monarchical principles as the maxim of the sovereignty of the people with the divine right, engage mutually in the most solemn manner to use all their efforts to put an end to the system of representative governments in whatever country it may exist in Europe, and to prevent its being introduced to those countries where it is not yet known. Article 2. As it cannot be doubted that the liberty of the press is the most powerful means used by the pretended supporters of the rights of nations to the detriment of those of princes, the high contracting parties promise reciprocally to adopt all proper measures to suppress it, not only in their own states, but also in the rest of Europe. Here first, there latter. Article 3. Convinced that the principles of religion contribute most powerfully to keep nations in a state of passive obedience, fucking religion, which they owe to their princes, the high contracting parties declare it to be their intention to sustain in their respective states those measures which the clergy may adopt, with the aim of ameliorating their own interests so intimately connected with the preservation of the authority of the princes. Holy snizzle. Wow. Anyway, so intimately connected with the preservation of the authority of the princes, and the contracting powers join in offering their thanks to the Pope for what he has already done for them, and solicit his constant cooperation in their views of submitting the nations. Article 4. The situation of Spain and Portugal unite unhappily all the circumstances to which this treaty has particular reference, the high contracting parties, in confiding to France the care of putting an end to them, engage to assist her in the manner which may the least compromise them with their own people and the people of France by means of a subsidy on the part of the two empires of 20 million of francs every year from the date of the signature of this treaty to the end of the war. Article 5. In order to establish in the peninsula the order of things which existed before the revolution of Cadiz, and to ensure the entire execution of the articles of the present treaty, the high contracting parties give to each other the reciprocal assurance that as long as their views are not fulfilled, rejecting all other ideas of utility or other measures to be taken, they will address themselves with the shortest possible delay to all the authorities existing in their states and to all their agents in foreign countries, with the view to establish connections tending towards the accomplishments of the objects proposed by this treaty. Article 6. This treaty shall be renewed with such changes as new circumstances may give occasion for, either at a new Congress or at the court of one of the contracting parties, as soon as the war with Spain shall be terminated. In Article 7, the present treaty shall be ratified and the ratifications exchanged at Paris within the space of 6 months, made at Verona, the 22nd November, 1822, for Austria, Metternich, for France, Chateaubriand, for Prussia, Barnstedt, for Russia, that's right, Prussia and Russia, separate places at the time, Nesserland. And we'll pick up the next part, which is based on the congressional record. Let's get back into the grit. Why so many things are happening. Possibly, maybe. DNA of the gods, the Anunnaki creation of Eve, and the alien battle for humanity. You know who? Chris H. Hardy. One of them, like so many others. I'm about to close that window. Anyway. Space sciences and technology. Even when feats are archived that could appear as magical powers, they do rely in great part on high technology. This is, of course, the case for the space sciences as well as genetic engineering. Space. Okay, people? Interdimensional. Same space occupieth. Thee, thou, all that other shit. It could, for example, explain the revival of Inanna by Enki emissaries. We have seen that upon the corpse they directed that which skip down. Corpse they directed that which pulsates and that which radiates. We have to note here that their terms are as functional as ours when we create terms are out of Greek or Latin roots, such as antibiotics. In parentheses, it states that which kills microbes or life. And or telescope, in parentheses, it states a looking afar. End. Or else we create nouns derived from the verbs, such as a starter, that which starts something, like a motor. They didn't say nothing about ignition or key, but anyway. Or a scanner, that which scans. Interestingly, only the scientific, technological, and cultural context attribute to the terms their actual usages. I'm going to shoot something else. The emissaries administered also to Inanna the water of life. Life is water. And the food of life. The flesh is not of the animal or the carcass, yet we know. Also called bread of life. Isn't the bread also food? As words? Mind state? Two ingredients that go together are essential in instigating long life. In parentheses it states, as when Adapa is offered them in Nibiru, and or quasi-immortality, the common lot of Nibirians. Therefore, Inanna came back to life. However, their science, as technological as it is definitely stemming from a worldview in which spiritual and magical powers are intertwined with technology. It is what we call now a holistic or integral science. An example that speaks for itself is the Great Pyramid in Giza, or Ikur. Yes, sir, that's right. And the many objects that they were using, such as crystals, precious stones, nets, radiance, or brilliance, for a gamut of purposes that remain mysterious for us, only to the ignorant. Energy, the ether, stones or crystals, what do they call those? Staffs or scepters and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the only thing we know with certitude, is the fact that the Great Pyramid was used as a new space control facility, both as a beacon for landing and a bond heaven earth, as it is described in the Sumerian poem, using the U as if the Great Pyramid was being, and that's going to be in Wars 177. I already read it. It's pretty awesome. Its dark hidden chamber, in a field of supervision, it lies. Your pedestal is closely knit as a fine mesh net, and your ancient measurements are surpassing. It's like saying what we see now is uncomparable to what was. After the deluge, new space centers are built within and nearby the Sinai Peninsula around 10,000 before the Common Era. To replace the 5 ancient Sumerian cities, they even speak of the deluge here, controlling space operations and destroyed by the deluge, using the exact same plan based on sacred geometry in the sacred network. I've studied such global architectural patterns, and I've used the term geoarchitecture. Whenever several buildings in a city or a region are positioned and oriented so as to form a global structure with specific figures, angles, and proportions on a global scale, like the star forts, all of our buildings resonated with energy, right? So in the land of Tilman, the Sinai Peninsula or northern Egypt, a new spaceport is built to replace the ancient one in Sippar, and a new mission control center occurred in Egypt to replace the ancient one in Nippur. This new control center is nothing other than the Great Pyramid in Giza. Ikura, that's what he thinks. But anyway, meaning house, which is like a mountain, or house with a pointed peak. Both Ikura had the same technology. And the Great Pyramid was directed by different gods in turn. During the Second Pyramid War, it was the temple abode of Marduk Ra. After Nimna was able to broker a peace agreement between the warring clans that ended the war, and she became highly regarded and it presented a neutral force. She was then attributed the domain of the spaceport in the Sinai Peninsula and appointed the mistress of the new Ikor, the new Egypt. Pay attention. And got the title of goddess of the rocket ship. And we remember in reading in the exposition, exposing the expositions of 1815, that the buildings here rivaled those of Rome and Egypt. Well, we all know that because these buildings are older. Anyway, spaceship in the Sinai Peninsula and appointed the mistress of the new Ikor, Egypt, the new Egypt, and got the title of goddess of the rocket ships. The gods have given unto my hand the pilot guiding instruments of heaven, earth, not heaven and earth, heaven, earth. Mother of the sky chambers am I. For I am, right? We'll pick up the next part. It gets really interesting. I might have to get the other book to bring some text into some of this. Now we go to something else that gives a little more explanation. The Book of Giants, the Watchers, Nephilim, and the Book of Enoch. I'm about to hit that thing. It's becoming annoying. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Okay. Chapter 26. I believe we started this. 1. And I went from there to the middle of the earth. 1. And I went from there to the middle of the earth. And I saw a blessed place in which there were trees with branches alive and blooming on a tree that had been cut down. And this is the author's note, the hollow earth theory, okay, people? It's been espoused by various groups, so just let's hold on. 2. And there I saw a holy mountain. Flatlanders, ring a bell for those who paid attention. 3. And underneath the mountain to the east there was a stream, and it flowed towards the south. And I saw towards the east another mountain higher than this, and between them a deep and narrow valley. I told you about the Grand Canyon, the places that saved many of our people. You'd be surprised to know what's truly down there. And then what does the Vatican do? On one of the mounds, they built this observatory with this golden looker. And they name it Lucifer. Over the valley. I've been there numerous times. 4. In it ran a stream underneath the mountain, and to the west of it there was another mountain, lower than the former, and of small elevation, and a dry, deep valley between them, and another deep and dry valley was at the edge of the 3 mountains. And all the valleys were deep and narrow, being formed from hard rock, and there were no trees planted on them. That was number 5. Number 6. And I was very amazed at the rocks in the valleys. Y'all better get on y'all's goofy Google Earth and pay attention. And we'll pick up chapter 627 because this one gets long. I just wanted you to hear that part, based on the stipulations of what's true Egypt. Certain things compared from old Egypt to new Egypt. The most focused, because they don't need you focused on the truth while they've still been digging and clamoring, looking for things to bring back alive or find out how to, or even weapons. Thermobolic, hyper, whatever. Exposing the Expositions, 1851-1915. Revised edition from 2019, Fake Demic Time. This is the 2021 edition by Howdy Mikowski. Shalaga. It's about 5 different names I've heard it pronounced. Fairs to the present. The fair stopped altogether after 1915. I believe we've read this, but let me just reiterate. The war being presented as the main reason for the shutdown, though it took a long time to get them up and running again. And when they did again in the 1930s, they were nothing like they used to be. Everybody was coming here to destroy. And we were still fighting people. You just don't know that because they don't tell that story. They have to whitewash everything. People still knew the truth back then. My great-great uncles were alive. They made sure I knew what the truth was. Anyway, let's go on down to the part we're supposed to be at. The next was scheduled, and then we ended off, they gave substance to the modern world, or I would say they may have created it. Okay? And that's that right off. All them idiots. Dragon and snake order, whatever you want to call that goofy shit. Anyway, the next was scheduled for Dubai in 2020. Postponed until 2021-2022. With a theme of connecting minds, creating the future, this is the concept of putting the AI directly into the human mind. These modern expos, while large and somewhat unique, cannot hold themselves to the size and building opulence that was Chicago, St. Louis, Paris, or San Francisco. Ancient Rome was shown to be right in front of our noses. The cities may have been part of a worldwide empire, as I've stated. And the expos, certainly Chicago, was modeled after 2 specific places, the Domus Aureli, Golden House of Nero, and Hadrian's Villa. If you live in the United States, we know it's not called the United States anyway, just go to your state capitol building, especially if you live west of the Mississippi, look at the size of the dome, quality of the stone, and the date given for construction. Does it really add up? Where does this research take us? Then I ask y'all to go and look at those little capitals in each one of your states. Pay attention. Chapter 7, Mudflood Terms. You might think of this as an extended glossary providing detail on the words and terms being used when we said deluge and things that came along after, man-made, being used by who and for what purpose? Do we want to hide stuff? Of course. By the current alternate historical community. This does not mean I agree with everything, but that I want to lay out background of the theories behind the words you will see being used. The first term that needs to be defined is alternate history itself. Alternate history, let's go ahead and have a gander. The term alternate history previously was applied to specific fiction writers who used historical events but added a twist to them, such as Germany invades and captures England in 1940, or John Kennedy does not die in 1963. While these provide interesting reading, this is not what is being referred to here. This term has now mostly used to refer to the theories of Anatoly Fomenko, a Russian mathematician and statistician. He developed this theory, and in parentheses it states that he called the new chronology. That means timeline. After working in Soviet intelligence in the 1970s, studying Western newspapers for misinterpretations, he began to believe that history also was greatly misinterpreted. He was not the first to have these ideas. One of the early originators of this theory was Jean Hardouin, a French Jesuit scholar in the late 17th century In his chronology, Ex Numinis Antiquis Restitute of 1696, he claimed that, with the exception of the works of Homer, Herodotus, or Cicero, the natural history of Pliny, the Georgic, of Virgil, and the satires of Epistles of Horace, all the rest of the ancient classics of Greece and Rome were forged, people, all right, by Benedictine monks. Facts. From reading similar theories, Flamenco published several 700 to 800 page volumes of his chronology. Its core is to present a historical timeline that is much shorter than normal history, with the majority of historical events, from the Middle Ages to ancient Egypt, falling in the period of our AD 1500. While I agree with this basic premise that there are major problems with his standard historical timeline, I personally do not agree with his revised presentation or such claims such as Napoleon's French army building the Egyptian pyramids. That, however, does not mean that much of what he is presenting is worthy of examination. But we also know that certain things were moved and certain things were built that didn't exist by Europe, so-called Europe. Well, these Pelicans. Like anything, one will bring wisdom and error into research, and my book included. Use his work as another tool on the path of understanding the path. Add. Originally in this book, I went through a long discussion about his claim that 1,000 years was added to history in the 1500s after the Council of Trent, 1545 to 1563. In northern Italy, transitioned from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian. This included ideas of the difference between a 1500 date and the J500 or 1500. Remember I told you all about J and I? Which became labeled as 1500 to historians in the future. That theory, while interesting, I thought would take away from the main focus of this book, the fairs. The original chapter also went into a long discussion of the need to study ancient sites in person to study their energy structures as well as their building conditions. But I want this text focused on aspects directly related to the expositions and the period of the 1800s. So those are a few things to look at, because I'm tired of talking about them. Cathedrals and star forts. We know that cathedrals are not churches. We know that's a lie. They were centers for healing, fighting something otherworldly or earthly. A lost type of technology seems to have existed in our recent past. Generally, it refers to things such as towers and domes. Cathedrals, I'm going to show you all a picture in a minute. Cathedrals and star forts, but can also refer various applications from fireplaces to LED transport. And it's funny how some of the old buildings I've been to, the fireplaces didn't have chimneys, but they had these little portals. What were in them? They were removed. I couldn't tell you. I'm turning that off. It's driving me loony right now. No, it's not driving me loony. It's just annoying. Yeah, I done beat myself all halfway to sleep by now. Okay. So, let's go ahead and let's get this heaven bearers. What else poking me in my damn? Excuse me. Go and get you one. Blade type. Heaven Bearers, The Great Reset of 1834 and the Mud Flood. Janine Helen. And there she is in South Africa. I don't know where she's at right now. I actually was going to look into it, but it's none of my business. I think that's kind of creepy to do. Don't you? Cheers. And just to let some of you know, a lot of these hospitals have been using mRNA since 2013. You just didn't know that, did you? And y'all worried about war, fighting and arguing with each other like fucking idiots. Teaser. The town square is packed with people of all ages and races. The Tartarians have accepted the Phoenicians and humans as their equal. After all, their beloved new queen is married to one. It is midsummer. The sun is shining brightly. The air is fresh and the wind is completely still. There is happiness, awe, and excitement in the air, everywhere, and even the clouds have formed neatly in the sky for this important day. She takes a position next to her husband, and they each hold one of the twins firmly in their arms. Amelia and Emil are only 3 months old, and Bonnie is about to be sworn in as Queen of the Great New Empire of Tartaria and Protector of the Earth. She is wearing a simple yet elegant champagne-colored gown with long sleeves and a low-cut neckline. She is wearing a shiny cushion-cut purple stone around her neck, and her hair is neatly styled up so that only a few strands shape her pretty face. The top of her head glistens bright as the light touches the diamond tiara that she is wearing. It is the exact same one she wore on her union day to Malcolm, a union y'all call marriage, and belonged to his mother. She's beaming with excitement and purpose. She waves to her people and they cheer with joy and hope, and it echoes all across the city. Queen Bonnie! The crowd cheers gracefully, and her eyes scan over them as they wave and gesture for her attention. She can see so many happy faces that she doesn't recognize at all, shouting out to her, wanting her attention, and she feels completely overwhelmed. Malcolm gives her a gentle and reassuring smile and takes Emil from her arms so that the proceedings can begin. Cashapp stands up, walks to face the crowd, and holds up his hands to calm and quiet them down. It takes a few minutes until there is complete silence, and he waits patiently for them to settle down. He proceeds to take the staff of the elders from the mahogany table, covered with a silver linen cloth, and he holds it up with pride. The crowd starts to cheer uncontrollably at the mere sight of it, and he hands it to his new queen. My queen, Bonnie, wife of Malcolm, Harrington, and ruler of the great Tartarian Empire. He places it gently into her hands and gives her a respectful grin, and slightly bows his head in a complete submission to her as he steps away. Bonnie gracefully accepts the staff from him, and it lights up slowly. Each stone shines a bright blue, and the illumination causes the crowd to keep dead quiet as they stare in awe and relish in all its glory. She takes a deep breath and can feel Malcolm in her mind. You look absolutely stunning in that dress, Bonnie. I can't wait to take it off of you later. Ha ha! Going back to the beginning, y'all. She gives him a reprimanding look, and he winks back at her. Her smile is stretching from ear to ear. Cheshire Cat there. She has everything she could have ever wanted and much more. I do love this man, she mutters just loud enough for him to hear, and she takes 3 steps forward to address the crowd. Thank you, Tartaria. She waits a moment for the crowd to settle down a little bit more, and she feels their infectious smiles penetrate her soul. Thank you all for coming today and accepting me as your new queen. She looks over at Cashapp. And he takes a step forward with a big smile and stops in position, military-like. Slightly behind her, you mind? And the crowd starts to cheer again, and He relishes every moment. Cashapp has always wanted to rule. He dreamt of this day since he was a little boy, and deep down inside it saddens him that he isn't standing next to her as her husband, but merely her advisor. No. Anticipation is making your asses wait. Don't worry, we've got a few more. You know I love you motherfuckers. Some shout outs. Rondo, my beloved brother, Mikey Hill, all y'all my beloved brothers, you know that. Jamil Shamseed, your book's in the due, but your book's gonna be read alone. And it's gonna be long days of reading, man. It's gonna be they're gonna blow their mind. Yes. Yeah, Jamil Shamseed, that's the one. Don't call my dummy no dummy. I have the book. It's an excellent book. It's in the description. If you want to purchase it, you better purchase it right now. Don't be stupid. Kimbo Twice was cracking. APJR. What's going on, man? Great Wolf. What's going on, Kendrick? Equator 7. All my kinfolk. Learning and building. Hesse Prosperity. James. Lucifer. Wanishi. Grand one. I truly appreciate it. Well, I hope y'all were able to pull some of the little puzzle pieces. You know, I can't just give. We all take sips of tea, right? The object of sipping tea, it's not rice wine, and it's not to slam it down. It's to sip. And when it gets too cold, you pour new tea. You dump out the old tea. That way the influx is always continual. So the puzzle pieces, you must ascertain. Heighten your horizons. Allow yourself to breathe phonetically. This is the old thing we used to do in Taekwondo. And everybody used to be looking at us like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's real simple. You have all these gang signs and myriads of different things. What's wrong with making a quick little yin and yang? It's not so much the feminine and masculine. There's sigmas. All right? And the problem is we have lost that. We have allowed a perversion to make men believe that they have feminine energy. You do not. It is the feminine complete. That means it belongs to the woman. There is no coexistence. And there's the masculine complete. It belongs to the man. One is superimposed as far as power trajectory, but its trajectory has a place. And it is the one that stands firm, that protects the power. If you have conduits, capacitors, and a source of energy, and it rivals itself. If it is open and there are enemy afoot, who is to protect it? Well, that water of life, the womb, that quintessential power of energy, Mother Earth we call agape, right? Lily, many names. But what is the night moon, the masculine, the shadow, that which conveys and covers and protects? Do you get what I'm saying? The sun is not male, it is feminine. It nurtures. The moon, it can bring on a intrepid warrior's mindset. And it makes sure that the sun in her trajectory meets up, and sometimes they face each other. In the midst of the clouds. Heaven, space. Tea. I appreciate y'all. Yeah, there's so much more. And later we're going to come back and we're going to read 2 new books. Oh my goodness. Y'all know I'll be laying up. That's why I've been going to sleep down here. I've been like reading that book. Hit my little magic stick. Yeah, this is the first one I wrote last night. I don't like when they get dry. I can't smoke a whole blunt, but you know how it is. Anyway. Indica. Out like a light. And book, I don't slobber on the book. I don't slobber in the book, people. If I did, it's mine. No, it's ours. I'm just kidding. I don't slobber in the books, guys. All right? So, I'm running out here to the post office, see if the new dump, actually, 2 o'clock. I'm going to run out. come back and I'll set it up for 5. Is 5 cool with you guys? I'll set it for 5. I appreciate that, learning and building. What's your name, actually? It's beautiful to have a name. Hopefully I got some stuff over here. All right. And we'll go ahead. I'll set it up for 5 o'clock and we'll read these other books. I got tons of them, but I want to really get into something different because we're coming to the end of some of these books, and it's not to ostracize anything, but these serve a purpose. Because I know remember I read Enoch, and that was a quick read, not the original. That was just the one that people can purchase right now is being utilized, not from the Apocrypha. All right, because I have the big Enoch, which is why I'm reading this. It's bigger than this. Oh, there's so much stuff in the book of Enoch, the 3rd edition. So that little French Jesuit, he might be dead, who owned the original scripts, which later became the Book of Enoch, from King James writings, his 5 to 6 years here. There was no religion before that. Even the time and everything was different. So I hope you're grabbing the tea. And if you've been looking at these old buildings, noticing that those ones weren't ones, they were I's and J's. Okay? I comes before J. J comes after I. All right? So it kind of helps you. So when you're looking at it, you don't have to say nothing to nobody. Let you be aware. Okay? Again, my sisters, if any of y'all came in here, that's it. And to my brothers, 2 on 1, you already know what we're doing. All right? Joshua. Okay. Beloved brother, gotcha. Surprised Sue ain't show up. Anyway, I'm going to holler at you guys later, all right? Appreciate you all. Get more people to come over. Any new subscribers, appreciate your subscription. And y'all know in the AM, I burn the road. All right? So never take it personal. See y'all shortly.